Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. Welcome to a rather rare live show on Sunday. It's just 2 minutes after 5 p.m. I'm going to be joined later on by James Rowe, my good friend. I'm talking about maybe some European Cup football and some other bits and pieces. I've got some sad news to talk about, but I shall see you on the other side of this live music intro. Yeah, hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. And it's a rarity that we do a live show. Well, I do a live show on a Sunday. I just try and keep that free as much as possible for my family life. And if there is on the off chance that we have to do a post game reaction, then I will do it then. But I'm hoping that my good friend James will be joining us a little bit later on. So he will jump in as soon as I see him there in the green room. I'll put him in. My usual opening gamut as usual. Make sure you subscribe to Cannon TV. Hit the bell notification button so you can receive all the latest news right here on Cannon TV. And just as I mentioned that word there, I can see James Rowe. He just entered the building.
Hello, how are you, Alex? You okay?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Very well, very well.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. I'm just saying our subscribers that they must subscribe to Cannon TV. I want.
Yes, they must. You don't find these standards anywhere. That's what you're subscribing for. Many try to maintain standards, but you and your brother was the ones that started it all. So yeah, I tip my hat.
Thank you, James. Thank you. And like I said, my opening and my intro, I did say that there was some really sad news that we must get to sooner rather than later. And unfortunately, yeah, Ray Clements has passed away at the age of 72. And yeah, anyway, the reports come from Sky News. Former England goalkeeper Ray Clements has died at the age of 72. The Football Association has announced. During his time with Liverpool, he won 3 European Cups and 5 First Division titles after being signed by Bill Shankly, from Scunthorpe for
Mm.
£18,000. And Clements won 61 caps. For some reason, I thought it was a lot more than that, but 61 caps. And would have won many more had it not been for, of all goalkeepers, Peter Shilton. But from everyone on Cannon TV to the Clements family, please accept our condolences. Really, really sad times. I mean, Nobby Stiles, passed away just, I
Mm.
think, last week before. And now, yeah, Ray Clements. Is there anything you want to say on that, James?
Well, I just wanted to concur with what you said. Really, I put out a tweet earlier, passing on my condolences to his family and friends. What a career the man had at club level and
Yeah,
international level. Signed from Scunthorpe, as you say. So, in this day and age where people are looking at price tags and people are looking at previous, he went on to become a club legend and also signed for Tottenham and did very well there. Also was
yeah,
part of England's backroom staff as well with coaching as well. So, a real tremendous goalkeeper. And it just goes
yeah,
to show that if you're good enough, you will be discovered. And some
yeah,
things never change, and some things never go out of fashion.
yeah. So real sad. Just some bits and pieces of news before James and myself will get into the real nitty gritty of things. There's some news in regards to Thomas Partey. You've probably seen that he was taken off at half time against Aston Villa, and he's given us Arsenal have given us some kind of a positive news. He possible that he will be back in time for the Leeds game, and I tell you what, with or without him, it's going to be a real toughie going against Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds. And of course, even though they've lost a couple of games, they're still going to be a real hard nut to crack with or without Thomas Partey. And we've sung his praise many times, Marcelo Bielsa on Cannon
Mm.
TV, as much as James has as well over the last, I say, 12 months. But yeah, Thomas Partey, it appears he'll be back in time for the Leeds game, James.
Yeah, we may need his physicality. We really may need his physicality. It's going to be one of the toughest games of the season. It was the game that I had my heart set on going to because I've never been to Ellen Road before, and obviously never. I don't think I've seen a Marcelo Bielsa team play live neither. So it was the
Yeah,
game that I had my heart set on, and it wasn't meant to be. But I'm sure Leeds will stay up, and hopefully the health position will improve of all countries to be able to go next season. But it's going to be a really tough game, and I might be a little bit controversial now with what I'm going to say, but I think Leeds are in a better position than what we are, and I think especially off the pitch, they have an owner that cares. They have an owner who's hell bent on giving them the very best. And if you look at how they've supported Marcelo Bielsa, and look where they are now, you know they were unlucky not to beat Manchester City. They gave Liverpool a real fright. You know they're back and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And it's an amazing story which I don't believe has been reported to the best of people's ability, especially at the top end. You know
Yeah.
you are. I think the questions that they asked Marcelo Bielsa, I think they could be a lot more thorough and they could be a lot more courageous. I mean, obviously, I interview professional players and managers on a regular basis, and I do very well on an individual sense. But I think at the top level, when they're sitting there in the press conferences, Alex, I think I'd love for someone to have the courage to say to him that what he achieved at Newell's Old Boys in getting everyone and lifting the entire club, he's managed to do the same for Leeds. Does he have a particular tactic for that? Is there certain characteristics that he looks for? But just an amazing manager, and
Yeah.
we're lucky to have him in the Premier League. I really believe that.
Yeah. We've not spoken since the debacle against Aston Villa, as such. I've had a couple of Aston Villa fans actually sent me comments, especially in the direct message service on Twitter, just basically saying that it's for the first time they've seen a podcast give Aston Villa some props.
Mm,
Personally, I thought Aston Villa were head and shoulders above Arsenal, of course, even
mm,
though they won 3-0 in all departments,
mm.
mentality, commitment, and real vigor to get the results. What was your thoughts about the Aston Villa game, James?
Well, I was surprised with the defeat, but first and foremost, you have to commend Aston Villa. First and foremost, they're a massive club. I think people
Mm,
that are disingenuous towards them don't realise how big a football club they actually are. I think if you go back into your history with Ron Saunders, what they achieved in the 80s, winning the European Cup, I still remember going to Villa Park in the away end for a match in March 2001. And I went into the away end has since changed at Villa Park, but I went there as a young 17-year-old. And when I went to the away end, it was then behind the goal. My breath was just taken away. Just
mm,
a beautiful football stadium. It remains one of the most iconic football stadiums in England in terms of if you're going to go and watch a game of football. And it's just an excellent side, and they've learned from their mistakes. They've invested really well. Martinez, Ollie Watkins, they've invested really, really well. I mean, I was fortunate enough to interview Courtney House back in August, and he was saying that even when they was in the Championship, he could feel the weight of the club. He could feel the size of the club, and he was delighted to be part of it. For any Villa fans watching for the first time, my name is James Rowe. I interview professional players and managers on a regular basis. You can check out my work on Google and on Football CFB. And there's many an interview to be found, including an upcoming interview with another villain in Ian Taylor, who was very prominent in the 1996 final. So nice to shed some light on Villa as well, because Arsenal fans would turn their noses up at players like Ollie Watkins and would turn their noses up at players like John McGinn, but they're quite clearly good enough to play for Arsenal. But of course, we've got a fan base that don't look at previous, don't look at quality. We only look at a price tag and we only look at the reputation. But that's no way to run a football club, is it? So
mm,
I commend
mm.
Aston Villa at the moment. I think they're doing a tremendous job, and I think they'll have a very comfortable season.
Yeah, yeah, here. There was some other bits and pieces of news I actually wanted to get to in regards to Martinelli. It appears that he's making his way. I mean, I've always said that he'll be back tail end of December, and December's coming upon us quite rapidly. Do you think he could probably smooth over our tales of woes up front, James? It appears that we've got two strikers who are who are off form. We've offered one a contract extension, and there's
Mm,
been some calls for the other striker, Lacazette, to be dropped, maybe
mm.
feature more in the Europa League. What are your thoughts about Martinelli and the strike situation, up front for
Well,
Arsenal?
I just think that with the Aubameyang, we haven't learnt from our mistakes. You know, if you take in his age and you take in his previous and look at his previous at Dortmund in Milan, look at his off the field contributions and what fellow clubs say about him. It's a good job he turned up at the FA Cup final. Otherwise, he wouldn't have warranted that contract extension. I still wouldn't have given it to him, but that's just my personal opinion. I found it abhorrent the way people would say that he's the only one that can score goals for Arsenal. It's a team game the last time I looked. And you look at Aston Villa's scoring midfielders, the likes of McGinn and Grealish, they score from midfield. Do our midfielders
Yeah.
score? When was the last time our midfield? When was the last time one or more Arsenal midfielders scored in one game? And I just think that Arsenal, we haven't learned. And as I say, it stems from the top. People talk about hashtag Arteta out, hashtag but people seem to forget it starts at the top. It starts at the top. If you own anything, Alex, and you don't look after it, it's going to decay. And
Mm.
we've got a very difficult fixture list coming up, including Leeds, Wolves, and the Derby. And should we not improve, people will clamour for Arteta's head. But then again, if the owner still remains the same, then what is going to change? Until there is significant, until there's a change of ownership, I can't see any significant progress. And people say
Yeah.
to me, "Oh, but Kroenke's invested money." It's not just about investing money; it's about being proactive. It's about
Mm.
making decisions that are maybe not popular. If you are an owner, and I come to you and I say to you, we need another defender, and you have the foresight to say to me, we've already got 11 defenders, excluding the academy. Why do we need a 12th defender? And this is what I mean about strength of character. If we had, you think of the days when we had board members such as Danny Fisman, Ken Fryer, David Dean, Peter Hillwood. They were all not just Arsenal fans, but extremely competent. You couldn't pull the wool over their eyes. You
Mm.
obviously you're not going to get every single decision right, but they were running the football club in the best interest of Arsenal Football Club, and that's all you can ask for. And at the minute, we have an owner who only sees Arsenal as a cash cow. He's not bothered if Arsenal finish eighth. He's not bothered if Arsenal get into the
Yeah.
Champions League. You never hear from him. It's not called Silent Stan for a reason. And then you see LA Rams, rocking up in a shiny, beautiful stadium, where some of our money is surely gone. And we're just in a bad way at the minute. It reminds me very much of Hicks and Gillette at Liverpool, but obviously Liverpool with their history richer than ours, and also a fan base that have got a lot more fight as a collective in terms of getting people out. And I believe they had to go through the courts to get rid of Hicks and Gillette.
Mm.
Obviously, people talk about Dangote and potentially 2021. That would be great. But for me, a lot of people in a takeover, they would say, oh, it's amazing. You can buy this player and buy that player. For me, it's not about buying. We need a proactive owner who's not afraid to make difficult decisions. We've got 33 players on the books. They can't all play. We've got youth players who won't get a look in. We've got three
Mm.
of our best youth prospects are out on loan at Gillingham, Blackpool, and Ipswich, respectively. At least all three of them should be in the matchday squad. Emil Smith Rowe should be playing. He did play under Unai Emery. And this is what I mean about creating a pathway. I mean, I see a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter talking about January. Should we buy this one? Should we buy that one? We shouldn't buy any. Shouldn't buy anybody. And when you've got an over inflated squad, you've got to get rid before you can buy. I put out a tweet last week about Sven Botman of Lille. He went on loan to Heelan Vane last season, made over 25 appearances, and returned to his parent club Ajax. And he was on the fringes of making it into the first team. Lille went out and brought him for 8 million euros, and now he's one of the best defenders in France. His stats, not that stats are extremely leading for me, but to give you an example, I think he's won like 73% of all his aerial duels. Physically very very strong, and also been drafted into the Dutch national team squad. All at the
Mm,
age of I believe he's 20 years of age. And this is what I mean about the pathway. Lille have obviously looked at his qualities, went out and brought him and play him, and now look what he's doing. And Arsenal, we've got a great PR machine, and always making things sound better than what they actually are. I mean, people talk about the PR and the wonderful training videos and that, and you know, I tweeted you a video last year of Chris Wilder going to a charity where they help vulnerable adults and they help them learn life skills. And it was like a 4-minute video of Chris Wilder treating those people with respect and
mm,
and taking photos and being interested in them and playing snooker with them and making them feel part of they really enjoyed spending time with Chris Wilder. That's a proper manager, someone who really
mm,
understands what it is and what it means. And I'd much rather see those videos. We used to do things like that. You used to have Arsenal in the community with the things Arsenal used to do. And unfortunately, we're slowly coming away from that, which is a bit of a shame. But I know times change and society changes, but some things never go out of fashion. And the class that we always had is slowly starting to drip away now. I mean, if to have 55 redundancies at Arsenal Football Club, and then to say that Aubameyang has signed a new deal, then that tells you all you need to know, doesn't it?
mm.
And
Uh,
what does make me laugh, Alex, is Aubameyang talks about Bergkamp, he talks about Henry, he talks about Ian Wright. I will say yet again, those three players played a huge individual part in our title-winning seasons as an individual and also as a collective. And Aubameyang's not going to win a title with Arsenal. I think he's literally laughing all the way to the bank. But
mm.
that's just proof that Arsenal never learn in that respect.
But yeah, yeah, it makes me on to my segue. Arsenal never learn a lesson. I mean, a colleague of mine gave me a book actually, which talks about the academy across football in the UK. I'm just about to read it now. And Arsenal never learned the lesson. They never learned the lesson. I'm wondering why is it we've got ourselves in this situation? You mentioned three youth players were out on loan: Ipswich,
Mm,
Gillingham, Guinness, and Zach Medley.
mm,
We can never learn our lesson. Rather
no.
than spending the millions of pounds on certain players, and I know I'm going to upset a lot of our subscribers, but I'm
Mm,
going to remain consistent. And I said
mm,
there was no need to spend millions of pounds on the likes of Gabriel,
mm.
Thomas Partey, when we've got players in the academy who've
Yeah,
been with Arsenal for 10 plus years, who are
yeah.
knocking on the door to play and feature at least in the senior squad for once in their lifetime, and
Mm,
we've broken their dreams and their hearts, and we never
yeah.
learned the lesson. Never
Well,
learned a
if I
lesson
could,
for a club that you know KSC, Stan Kroenke, who's
yeah,
quite tight with his money, then let the young players have their
yeah.
time in the sun. But we never learn our lessons, James.
No.
Never learn our lesson.
We used to be the complete opposite. We used to be the complete opposite. If I can just follow on what you said, I've been fortunate enough to speak to Sanchez Watt, who played in the first team at Arsenal League Cup games. And I remember what he told me when I spoke to him when he was at Wealdstone. He told me that he was in the Arsenal first team squad, and a lot of the first team squad at that time didn't want to go out on loan. They were happy to train with the likes of Fabregas, with the likes of Van Persie. They're just happy to train in the first team, and that was enough for them. He deliberately went out on loan and went to Leeds. And he said he was really looked after. They really took him into their hearts. They really kind of made sure that he felt comfortable. And he said that they really helped aid his career. I spoke to Charlie Gilmore back in April of this year, who left Arsenal as recently as last summer. Not this summer gone, but the one before. And he said that when you're coming through the Arsenal youth setup, you're giving the best coaches, you're giving the best training, you're giving the best facilities. And then when you leave the club, you automatically think that there's people be queuing around the block. But obviously, in terms of English football, they don't want to take a chance on a young boy in a man's game. But there was a great interview from former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger, and it's a brilliant point. I don't think I know Arsene Wenger gets an awful lot of criticism, but this point, what I'm about to say, is something that Arsenal used to be, and we've forgotten about it. A strong club is a club that makes strong decisions, and in this day and age, even more so, making an unpopular decision. People are only looking about what is popular. They're not looking about what's for the benefit of the club. If a player is worth £200 million, then he must be amazing. But nobody looks if he can dribble, if he can pass the ball, if he's got good stamina. And I interview professional players and managers on almost a daily basis. And when you dig down into it and you look at things, it's so much more than just a transfer. I've spoken to players where a transfer has broken their career and made their career. And not every transfer is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Because people forget, when Gabriel signed that day, what happened to the pathway of McGuinness and Ballard? What happened to them? There was no pathway for them anymore. I tweeted that out on the day that Gabriel signed, and I received the most abhorrent abuse. To which I responded that my position is interviewing and speaking to professional players and managers at all different levels. So my knowledge and the information that I get access to is completely different to people just on Twitter. And I feel for the likes of Daniel Ballard, who's already good enough to play for Northern Ireland, but not good enough to play for Arsenal in some cases. I've often championed the likes of Todd Cantwell, James Ward-Prowse, Mark Albrighton, but I've been told they're not good enough to play for Arsenal. Mark Albrighton's a Premier League winner, but he's not good enough to play for Arsenal, apparently. And it's just silly. It's bordering on silliness, really.
God, dearie me. I just really, I do despair. I mean, I know I don't like to rant, but it appears that for the last 2-3 weeks, I find myself ranting about the things that happen at Arsenal. I mean, it's systemic, the chronic situations, and like you rightly say, James, things can't change unless we have an owner that really cares and takes a real interest. The dealings, the defining details, at Arsenal. Unless that changes, nothing's going to change. And what you're seeing with the players is so indicative of what's happening at the top of Arsenal. It's a carbon copy. The players really don't care. They know, well, if I don't perform, I'm going to be chosen. There's so many players, over the last 2 seasons who have done, ridiculous things, and yet they still get to play in the squad. You have to draw the line somewhere. And I always go back, to the time when George Graham came at Arsenal.
Yeah.
He managed Millwall, but when he came at Arsenal, he knocked so many heads together, and he got rid of so many players. Your Tony Woodcoxes, your I can't remember the players now, but got quite a few players he got rid of, and that's what we're calling for now. Like I say, some decisions which are going to upset a lot of people, but it's for the greater cause of the club.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen anytime soon, James.
No, certainly not. And what I also find embarrassing is Oscar used to play for Chelsea. Oscar is now playing in China. Oscar openly admits that David Luiz and Willian are trying to get him to sign for Arsenal. Are the players running the club now then, are they? If a fellow professional is telling media outlets that David Luiz and Willian want me to sign for Arsenal, they have no place in telling Arsenal what they should be doing, and more for Arsenal if they listen to them. But obviously, it's jobs for the boys at board level, and that's what it is. It's jobs for the boys at board level. People talk about Edu. Running the Brazilian national team is completely different to running Arsenal. And it's very easy to say, "Oh, we tried." Well, I wonder how Daniel Ballard, Zach Medley, and Mark McGuinness feel. They should be playing. Look at Tony Adams. Yeah. Tony Adams captained Arsenal at 21. Yeah. David O'Leary is Arsenal's most capped player. Came through the entire youth system. Bob Wilson. I remember when I spoke to Bob Wilson, and he was fortunate, an Arsenal legend, giving me 40 minutes of his time for my interview with him. And he was telling me that the golden period of the 70-71, that all started after the cup final defeat to Swindon, where Arsenal were labelled the shame of North London. And Frank
Mm.
McClintock rallied those troops and said, look, we have got to shove this down to people's throats. We've got to come back stronger. And they did. But at the moment, we're just going through the motions. And
Yeah.
when I see Arsenal fans just saying, "Oh, I give Arteta 3 more games. I give Arteta 4 more games," you're just a fan. Is what you are. I am also just a fan, but my knowledge in terms of what I do on a daily basis, in terms of interviewing players and managers, it's a little bit different.
Mm.
Did you know now that clubs are being spammed? Clubs are being spammed. Clubs are receiving messages in the form of spam by um, by
Agents.
different agents,
Mm.
different bureaus behind players, and these messages are not even personally addressed. They're just hoping that a player will stick. Oh, we've got an amazing player. We've got this. You want to see this player, and you've got to think about the welfare of footballers, because it's something that I try to educate people on in my interviews, Alex, where you know, what happens when a player retires? Some players retire through injury.
Mm.
Some players retire through forced injury. Some people are lucky enough to kind of say that they're ready to retire. I had a player this week who told me that he he doesn't miss the dressing room. I had a player tell me this week, a former retired player, that he doesn't miss the dressing room because the players are so young that the things they're talking about, the elder statesmen did those things 10 years before. And obviously it's a multicultural game, it's a world game, but we need a really, really good mix. And I just think at Arsenal at the minute, we used to be fans, but we're just kind of customers now. I mean, before the COVID outbreak, I would fly back regularly for home games. My last game was Sheffield United back at home in January, and I'm saving very hard, but specifically for away games, because at away games there's um, so much more camaraderie among fans,
Mm.
young and old. Everybody looks after one another. If you're an elder statesman and you're a little bit older and you've seen the old Arsenal, people will look out for you, that you're okay, that you don't fall or anything, or you need any help getting up any of the stairs or something, or. But I just think, I mean, I had 2 great away days last season at Carrow Road and Bramall Lane, even though we didn't win, just fantastic memories. But, in terms of going to football, but, Arsenal are coming towards a crossroads now where something has to happen sooner rather than later. And it's not going to be down to one manager. It's not going to be down to one player. It's not going to be down to an influencer on Twitter who's got 100,000 followers who's going to tell Arsenal fans what to do. It's about Stan Kroenke looking deep inside his heart and realizing he loves LA Rams. He loves LA Rams. There's people that love Arsenal. How would he feel if the LA Rams are being run the way that Arsenal are being run? I don't think he'd be too happy about that.
And before I go into life, I just want to say to everyone's watching now, and maybe at a later stage on replay, it's not how can I say this? We're not like picking on any particular player. When James speaks, he wants the best for Arsenal, not for any particular player. The most important thing here is Arsenal. Try and do the right thing because we're custodians. When I leave this mortal earth, I'm sure my children will continue supporting Arsenal. And so, whoever's at the top, whether it's the owners or the board members, they are also custodians and they must look after, the brand, which is Arsenal. Unfortunately, James, football is big business. And money talks, but money also silences, and that's a sad thing. When I look at how I started supporting Arsenal in the 70s, and looking at how Arsenal is now, it's football is big business, and you got teenagers who become instant millionaires, and they don't really have to perform because they know if I'm not chosen for Saturday's game, I'm going to be earning money, millions of money, pounds in my bank account. The game has changed so much. Money.
Absolutely. And if I can just elaborate on that point, Alex, one of my recent interviews was with the CEO of Ref Support, Martin Casserly. And we spoke about Ref Support, a charity that he set up to help referees. And we spoke about referee abuse. We spoke about how the game has changed. And he was telling me that even at grassroots level now, parents, the rewards are so great that even if a referee misses a challenge in a youth game, they will go hell for leather for the referee because the prize of their son or daughter becoming an overnight millionaire or someone very, very wealthy might be taken away if a bad foul takes place. And you know, for players that are at the top level, it's simply not the case that every footballer is rich. I've spoken to players who have gone from full-time football to part-time football, and for
Mm,
some, it's a quite easy transition. For others, it's not. For example, when you're playing part-time football, what do you eat before a match? Normally, you have your pre-match meal, you have everything arranged for you. When you're part-time football and you're combining it with jobs where people have to have mortgages to pay, the same level of winning mentality might not be there. You know, different characters. So not every footballer is filthy rich. You know, this is a game that we all love. And as I say, from my point of view, with my interviews, upon which I have more than 250 now, I always try to provide the human element because that's what's left behind. You know, when a player eventually retires and they start again at the bottom of a ladder, maybe they start, maybe they've gone to part-time football, maybe they start a new job, maybe it's the first job they ever have in their lives because they've only
mm,
ever known football. So it's important to provide the human elements as well. You know, in terms of also speaking with agents and technical directors and referees. You know, I'm trying to build my reputation bit by bit and make sure that you cover all facets of the game. But it's
mm.
always very important to try to educate people in that respect.
Absolutely. Let me go to the live chat for the first time this evening. I've got Monty, one of two moderators this evening in live chat. He says, hi, Alex, and hello to Cannon 42 family. Good evening to you, Monty. I hope you're well. I hope you had a good weekend. He goes on to say,
Hi,
give us a
Monty.
thumbs up. There you go, and subscribe if you're new here. I've got Don1 1982. He says, hello, Alex, and all, and hello to you as well, Don1. I hope you're well, my friend. And my other moderator, Dave, is doing some sterling work behind the
Mm,
scenes. This is hello, Alex, James, and Monty, and hello to the Canon 42 family. I hope you're all well. Enjoy your time with us. Blessed.
mm,
Hello, Don. Okay, another one here from the assembled who says, good afternoon, Alex, Monty, David, and Don. Ashley D says, hey up, Gooners, and hey up to you as well, Ashley D. I hope you're well. Yeah, Ashley D just says, rest in peace, Ray Clemens, a great England goalkeeper. Indeed. Really, really
indeed.
sad. Who else do we have here? Oops. Got Tori Hakim, who's a Hilux. Good evening, bro. The problem with Arsenal is not defenders or holding midfielders or attack. The problem for Arsenal right now is creative midfielder. Period. We need to get this back. James, any thoughts on that?
I think he makes a very good point. I wonder what Emil Smith Rowe is doing these days. I wonder what he's doing. I think he's not. I don't think he's very busy at the minute. I think he could do a good job. He was before the transfer window closed, Alex. He was linked with Monaco. Now that tells you everything you need to know, didn't it? That Emil Smith Rowe, who can't get a game for Arsenal, is linked heavily with Monaco. Monaco people like to kind of pan them off as being a principality team where it's all about the money. The success of Monaco, going back to Thierry Henry and David Trezeguet, as the jewel in their crown has always been their youth academy. So they know
Yeah.
how to spot a good young player. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens to Emil Smith Rowe going forward.
Yeah, real sad, real sad. Here's a question for you, James, coming from the assemble, who says, if I can get it here. Good afternoon, James. Do you believe Arsenal are improving the fluidity of the team?
I think it's very stop start. I think it's very stop start where I think the players are ruling the roost, don't they? They know that if bad results continue, somebody else will come in and then they'll pick up and they'll all of a sudden start to really get their skates on. So it's the ability to down tools when they want to down tools and turn up when they want to turn up, and that's when
Mm,
you've got a problem because Arteta
yeah,
has improved Arsenal, but the fact remains he has no experience to fall back on, and in the tough times, as in with Chris Wilder now, Chris Wilder will lean heavily on his experience at Oxford, Northampton, Sheffield United. Arteta doesn't have that kind of experience. So what will he lean back on? But I think it'll be a very interesting couple of weeks, and I think the aftermath of the derby could well prove decisive. I think.
I mean, we don't do predictions per se. Well, I don't do personal predictions unless I'm talking in a WhatsApp group or on Twitter. People have been saying, well, the next 3 games, Leeds, Wolves, and Tottenham away, it's going to be a real tough running for the next three
Yeah.
games. But I'm
Yeah.
not going to predict any scores anytime soon.
No, take it one game at a time.
One
But I
game at a
think
time.
all three are going to be difficult. Losing to Leicester, losing to Villa, losing to Manchester City and Liverpool. We've it's going to be a long old season. And in the meantime, Unai Emery is sitting in second place with Villarreal. And doing a really, really good job.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you can have a 22 match unbeaten run, get to a European final for the first time in 13 years, having won the Europa League 3 times on the spin, and improved Valencia when they didn't have any money, get Almeria up to the La Liga for the first time in 24 years. And then, all of a sudden, Arsenal fans who have a couple of followers on Twitter or a bit of an influence will tell you that you're rubbish. But I just think that the club buckled with that. When you had Raul Signelli going to the changing room, if I was Unai Emery, I would have resigned. If you've employed me to do a job, and then you don't trust me to do a job, I would have told him that that's enough. But Unai Emery still is a very good manager, and he will bounce back, I'm sure. But he's bouncing back already. But pride comes before a fall, as they say.
Absolutely. I've got one here from John Wayne. Is it the real John Wayne? I don't think so. Anyway, he says, good evening, Alex and James. And David says, if there's something coming from midfield, then we may as well sit back and let a team beat us. The midfield should be the puppeteer of the game. Feeding strikers, scoring goals, protecting the defence. Well, listen, I think there's problems all over the pitch, David. The mentality, again, trying to source and scout the right players, to come at Arsenal who are going to, give you above and beyond what you ask them to do. That's the one factor which is lacking there, above anything else there.
And strength of character as well.
Absolutely.
Of character. Look at Leicester. Leicester signed a player called Timothy Castagna. I've known about Timothy Castagna since he was playing for Genk. And obviously, a lot of people know about him from his time at Atalanta in Italy. But he's an excellent player. And for Leicester to go out and sign someone like Timothy Castagna is a great signing. Timothy Castagna, if he was signed for Arsenal, people would have turned their noses up. But it just goes to show that Leicester have a good scouting network. They have an owner that cares. I mean, obviously they had a tragedy, but someone's taken over that ownership and showed that they are a custodian and showed that they cared. I mean, Arsenal had a bid accepted for Jamie Vardy, and people say, "Oh, Jamie Vardy turned Arsenal down." I'm convinced, Alex, Jamie Vardy turned Arsenal down because I think part of it was Arsenal didn't work hard enough. This was a player who just won the Premier League and was the shining light in Leicester's team effort of winning the Premier League. And by all reports, Wenger told him that he couldn't guarantee Vardy a starting position. Now, if that tells you all you need to know. If anything, he should be the first man on the team sheet. Arsenal were linked with Mahrez. Mahrez didn't happen. Okay, why not go back in for Albrighton? Oh no, Albrighton's not good enough for Arsenal. He's a Premier League winner, and he was an important part of that Premier League success for Leicester. And a good player, when you see a good player, like Albrighton's been a fantastic player ever since he played for Aston Villa, let alone signing for Leicester. And this is what I mean. We unfortunately have a fan base, especially the younger fan base, where it's all about the reputation. Everybody's saying about Thomas Partey doing a jig for Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey is 27 years of age, and before Atletico played for Real Mallorca. Gabriel, before he played for Lille, was playing for Troyes and Dynamo Zagreb. So you've got Mallorca, Dynamo Zagreb, and Troyes, and then all of a sudden, these players are good enough to play for Arsenal. But if you notice, we're signing the same characters, Alex. That tells you all you need to know. We're signing the same characters that fall into a comfort zone and don't really want to come out of it. I saw Gabriel against Manchester City give the ball away 3 times to the feet of Manchester City attackers. And then all of a sudden he has one good game and he's the best defender in the league, apparently. So Ruben Diaz, who came for the youth set up at Benfica and is one of the best signings of the summer, in my opinion, that Manchester City brought, is apparently not good enough to not better than Gabriel. I know we deal with a game of opinions, but I think our Arsenal fans, especially the younger generation, they get carried away far too early. I mean, we're in November and they're talking about January. Well, let me tell you this about January. Should any players come in January, that is literally the death knell for our young youth players. And what happens to these young youth players? Where do they go? Where do they go and play? What happens to them? And I know people won't think about these things, but I've dealt with this on a regular basis, Alex. I've dealt with this on a regular basis where players have told me I had the opportunity to go there, but I thought, no, the opportunity for the first team would be at that club. So I took that opportunity. You know, and so many players retire where they're not well known. And as I say, it's important to educate people as well. I'm not trying to say to people that I know better. I'm just trying to explain to them that I'm a veteran of 4 years of over 250 interviews with professional players and managers at all different levels. So you're hearing the story of Jamie Carragher, Simon Barker, Danny Cowley, but you're also hearing the story of Charlie Gilmore. You're also hearing the story of Bob Wilson. You're also hearing the story of Ricky van Rollerswinkel and how his move to Norwich didn't work out. And this is what I mean, that, you know, I see people tweeting about January and I just think, you know, the welfare of our footballers, the welfare of our young footballers. I mean, I still can't believe that Daniel Ballard plays for Northern Ireland but doesn't play for Arsenal. I find it a complete mystery.
Dearie me. Well, just quickly going back on Jamie Vardy, then he was proven right. I think he made the right choice by not signing for Arsenal.
He did. But if Arsenal would have just worked harder, we could have got him. I mean, look at Ian Wright. Ian Wright didn't need to be asked twice, did he? Ian Wright didn't need to be asked twice. And the story goes like this: David Dean, custodian of Arsenal Football Club, rang up the chairman, Ron Nodes, and it went like this: Ron, we're interested in buying one of your strikers. Well, neither are for sale, David, so we can't do that. He said, once again, we're interested in buying one of your strikers. He said, well, which one? He said, we really want Ian Wright. He said, no, there's no price. And David Dean said, give me a figure. And Ron Node said, 2.5 million. And David Dean said the following: okay, Ron, I'm offering you £2.5 million for Ian Wright. Okay, David, done. And I know football has changed, and I know society has changed, but that is a custodian of Arsenal Football Club who works with Ron Nodes at the FA, doing everything he can to get the deal over the line for the benefit of Arsenal Football Club. And Ian Wright went on to break Cliff Bastin's record. If Jamie Vardy would have signed for Arsenal, who knows where we would be? Who knows?
Yeah. Dearie me. Don Juan says, if I remember correctly, there was 42 players in the invisible squads, but the difference between then and now is want and work rate. It's getting old now at Arsenal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ashidi says, our academy is a feeder academy for other players. That's so sad.
Yeah, so it's sad. That should make you weep. That should make you weep. Obviously, I've been based in Amsterdam for more than a decade. So my local club has a history of the youth is the bloodline. As one player leaves, another door opens. Matthijs de Ligt was training with Ajax at the age of 16 onwards. Mark Overmars, who was the sporting director, rang up for then manager Peter Bos and said, "I've got a 16-year-old that I would like you to take a look at." And Peter Bosz said, "Really, 16? I doubt it somehow, but send him through." And even Peter Bosz said, "Amazing talent." And look at Matthijs de Ligt now. When you hear him speak, he's I've watched him play live. He's an amazing defender. We're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. People are struggling. Countries are struggling. It's irresponsible to go out and spend millions of pounds on a player in positions that you already have. But it appears we don't learn. We'll buy again in January, and then the fans will be able to have their feel. But this is no way to run a football club. Alex, we haven't won the league for 16 years, but nobody talks about that. We haven't won the league for 16 years, but you barely hear anybody say it. You barely hear anybody say it. They'll tell you how world class Mesut Ozil is, and they'll tell you how world class Aubameyang is, but they won't tell you that Arsenal haven't won the league for 16 years.
Just one question, actually, just before we go back into live chat. Would you have liked to have seen Donny van der Beek play for Arsenal?
Yes.
Or do you think he's talent?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. I said on many Manchester United podcasts, it appeared to be the worst kept secret in football that he would sign for Real Madrid. It looked to really be a question of only when. And then all of a sudden, Real Madrid don't come in and he's signing for Manchester United. He gave an interview to the Dutch NOS broadcaster where he said that he's really been really well looked after, chauffeur driven to work every day, to training every day, and chauffeured home again. And they found accommodation for him and his partner. But Jacques Svart, the old Ajax striker, said that Arsenal were linked, but they weren't entirely convinced. But therein lies the problem. There's too many self-serving people at board level where, oh, that's not my suggestion. I want this player. Oh, this player could be better because I know the agent. And just very strange times. I would have loved Van der Beek to sign for Arsenal, but wasn't meant to be. But he's no diva. He's got a great work rate, and he won't go in a strop. He's always working in the benefit of the team. Got a great presence, especially for last 2 seasons. So it'd be interesting to see what happens going forward. But in terms of buying in January, we have to offload and streamline the squad first and foremost, because how much money is being wasted? We're wasting and hemorrhaging an awful lot of money, and it's about time we start to be a little bit more sensible.
Yeah, and I've remained consistent with that message that I'll gladly sacrifice not having any players come in January if it meant we could offload at least 4 to 5 players.
Yeah,
I mean the wage bill must be creaking at the knees.
Yeah,
there's so many players that need to be shown the exit door.
Yeah, but not just that. You then compound that by going and signing Thomas Partey on 260 grand a week. You then make 55 employees redundant and give Aubameyang 400 grand a week. We have the Ozil situation for another season. People talk about the long term. These wages are not sustainable without top 4, without Champions League. And only then will people realise there'll come a situation, Alex, where Arsenal will have to sell. It wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal have to end up selling. I know it might sound ridiculous now, but in the real world, Arsenal might end up selling Aubameyang, selling Lacazette, selling Partey, because this is real money. This is not monopoly money that you just write off into thin air. There's agents costs, there's appearance costs, there's lots of different bonuses. And these are things, it's not just simply the case of, he's signed and he's on this amount of money. So big decisions ahead for Arsenal Football Club, both on and off the pitch.
Yeah, let's go last time into the live chat so I can wrap up all these very, very quickly. The Invincibles. The Assembled says, Alex, after the Invincible season, Arsenal became very complacent. It has now been 15 years since the complacency set into the structure of the Emirates. And I'll give you the live chat of so far of the evening. Complacency. That's the one word when you've got players coming in, going out, literally knowing that there's no competition for the places, and it's going to be the death knell of Arsenal in the coming years. We're paying for it now. We're paying for it now.
Yeah, I think we still will. I think we still will, and people seem to think this will all be fixed with a January transfer window signing. People seem to think this will all be fixed with a derby win. Arteta's the best thing since sliced bread. Once again, he has improved Arsenal. I'm delighted he won the FA Cup and the Charity Shield, but the fact remains is he has no experience to fall back on. And I refer back to my interviews with Graham Potter, who's now Brighton manager, and Danny Cowley when he was Lincoln manager. In the words of Danny Cowley, the longer you stay at a football club, you know exactly what you need in terms of personnel, not just in terms of playing staff, but also characters and the people that you're bringing in. Speaking to Graham Potter, who, when I spoke to him, he was manager of Ostersund's, and he was telling me that when they played Arsenal and when they beat Arsenal, they knew that Arsenal was so down after the Derby defeat that they could get at them. And the only thing that stopped Ostersund's knocking Arsenal out, and I was at that game, was the fact that they couldn't capitalise and scored a second goal when they needed to. The third goal when they needed to, sorry.
Oh dear. James, remind me, you don't think Arsenal will reach top four this season? I mean, I don't. I think the highest they're probably, even now at push, sixth place finish, but seventh.
Yeah. And people will call it progress. People will call it progress. You watch. I was asked on the eve of the season, where do I think Arsenal will finish? And I said seventh. And I said there's 6 better managers in the league. Honestly, I've never received so much abuse. I'm thick-skinned. It doesn't matter. But once again, the people that are giving the abuse, they are not dealing with one-to-one conversations with Jamie Carragher, Danny Cowley, Graham Potter and Bob Wilson like I am. They've never spoken to a professional in their life. And in terms of the knowledge that you accrue when speaking to these people and keeping your integrity at all times. Marcelo Bielsa is a brilliant manager, and Arsenal could learn a lot from Leeds. They really could. An owner who is hell-bent on success. I mean, you imagine being the owner of Leeds and having the ambition to go out and get Marcelo Bielsa. And they got him, and he won them the championship, and now they're the Premier League team after 16 years. It's not rocket science, is it? And they had to work really hard to get Marcelo Bielsa, but they got him. But what will Arsenal do now? Arsenal will go through the motions. Maybe a new owner will come in. The first bid will be rejected. I can tell you that now.
Yeah.
So that's as clear as day. The first bid will be rejected. I can tell you that now. And then there'll be a little bit of hope, but it's about a proactive owner. The thing that I like about Dagote is that he appears to have a bit of steel about him. I saw a clip of his where someone said to him, "Why are you buying Arsenal in 2021? Why are you not buying them now?" And his response was, "I'm a businessman. I have other commitments, and we want to get our other businesses up and running, and we want to be careful and aware of what we're doing." So that sounds to me like common sense. I don't think Dagote would sanction a transfer for a 12th defender when we've already got 11, excluding the academy. And this is what I mean about ownership, the ability to say no. I'm not saying that he's got to decide everything, but I'd like to think that someone like Dagote would say, right, okay, we've got 33 players on the books. You are not getting one single penny until 5 of them are gone. If you have to fill up the youth team with those spaces, then that's what you have to do. And only then will Arsenal start to learn.
Okay, back into the live chats for the last time. Javersa Louise says, it's a dilemma. Fans demand the club splash the cash, and on the other hand, they also say to give the academy players opportunities. But I'm not asking for Arsenal to ditch all the senior squad players, but it's got to be a combination of both. Again,
exactly.
You've got players, or they get a call from Arsenal. Okay, we want your son to play in the academy. And then you see the history of all the players, all their dreams just been shattered. I wouldn't want my son to play in the academy for Arsenal. It's a real dying shame there. It's a dying shame. But there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, absolutely. But that balance has got to come from an owner who's aware of that. An owner that might stimulate that. An owner who might not just, people talk about, buying. If you go, I've been supporting the club in person since 1991. You think of my hero was Paul Merson when I was a kid. Paul Merson is one of the greatest Arsenal players I've ever seen, and he remains one of my favourite Arsenal players to this day. Tony Adams is, in my opinion, the best captain we've ever had. I was too young for Frank McClintock, but Tony Adams, and likes of David O'Leary, David Rocastle, Michael Thomas, David Rocastle. Could we get a David Rocastle story in this day and age? Could we get? In the words of David Dean, I've seen a boy today. He's that good. He could be a Brazilian player, and he comes from Lewisham.
Mm,
And that's exactly what he said. And Rocky's passed on now for 19 years, and his name is still sung for a reason, because the man gave everything to that football club. Literally, when he left for Leeds, he was in tears because he didn't want to
yeah,
leave.
yeah,
And it's just,
yeah.
but he was still professional to go to Man City, to go to Chelsea, to go to Leeds and do amazing things. I mean, when I spoke to Kevin Campbell, he said, it's like South London born Brazilian, just an amazing, the tricks that he had and the camaraderie, that was a very difficult decision for Arsenal to make. But they did it. But yet, thankfully, his reputation wasn't tarnished. But in terms of splashing the cash, as I say, I'm too involved with the other side now to demand big name signings, because I
Mm.
know about player welfare, Alex. I know what it's like for a player to be sidelined
And,
and
oh,
playing when their
and,
fitness levels are going down, when they find it
and,
difficult to get motivated, for example.
yeah, and also, James, like my brother said, the human element, these players, that although they're
Mm,
like commodities to football clubs, they're human elements. You think about players,
mm,
uprooting from one country or another continent to come and play in a
mm,
different. These are human beings. They're human beings, and that's one thing
mm,
I do like about your interviews, James. That the human element literally hits me in your face, thinking these are human beings. They're not. They're not things. They're human
mm,
beings.
mm.
Let me go back
Well,
into the live chat. Go. Sorry,
it's
James. Go on.
very, very important in that. Very important in that respect.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else was there? There's so many live comments here. Okay. Majid, good evening. He says, first and foremost, he says hi. It's James and Monty and David, and hi to you as well, Majid. I think instead of going for Pepe, we should have gone for Ziyech.
Yeah,
He was
there's the
cheaper and
story.
he was interested in coming. Why didn't we go for him, James?
Um, Jobs for the boys at board level. But I would tell Mashid as well. I knew of him when he played for Heerenveen. And I spoke to Joey van der Berg, who Reading fans will know, who played with him at Heerenveen. And he said even then you could tell it was going to be a brilliant player. And everybody was wondering why he didn't want to go abroad. He turned down Genoa, he turned down Sampdoria, and he was waiting for his chance, and now he's found it. And you've also got to remember he's the captain of Morocco, which is no mean feat. People like to demean African football and to demean South American football, but international football is extremely important in these continents because it's pure. It's the best of what the country has to offer, and CH is growing into a leadership role, and I'm sure he'll continue to improve.
Yeah, yeah. Again, let's try and run through all these because we've also almost been going for an hour, and let's see what we can do in the next couple of minutes. Got a Mube Guna. This is my guys. What's happening? Well, we're here talking about Arsenal bits and pieces, and of course the sad news in the past of Ray Clements. What else do we have here? Okay, Turi Hakim. Good evening. This is a highlight. So good evening. The problem is, we've done this one already. I think. Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? Okay. Oh, good evening. Kent Coastal Holiday Let's says every team will go through a bad run. I think Arsenal will finish fourth. I can't see it myself. I
No,
can't
but
see it.
obviously, you respect the opinion of every Gooner, young and old. It's always very important.
Yeah, actually, he's not an Arsenal supporter. Kent Coastal Holiday. I think he supports. Well, he's not an Arsenal supporter. I remember he told me before. But thank you for coming to the live chat.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. There's one more here. Oh, Alex, can you understand William's wage? No.
No. but if I can just elaborate on that, um, that is prime proof that we have not learnt from our mistakes. That along with
Well,
Partey, Aubameyang, and Ozil for another season. We haven't learnt from our mistakes, and
yeah,
chickens will come home to roost sooner rather than later if they
yeah.
haven't
I mean, I
already.
actually did. I did feature Reece Nelson this morning in
Mm,
a short segment, and I'm just thinking, well, we've paid this amount of money to Willian, we paid a certain amount of
mm,
money to Pepe. Surely we should be giving Reece Nelson, who's come through the academy, and never
mm.
academy player,
Yeah,
some game time. He was
yeah.
loaned out to Hoppenheim. He
Mm.
refused to go out on loan this season again, and he said he
But
wants
see
to fight for
that
his place, which is quite right.
but yeah, but the refusal to go out on loan is, in hindsight, a bad decision from his point of view.
Hmm.
As I say, I think that's not a very good decision at all. I can understand wanting to stay and fight for your place, but if he's not in contention, then it's best to go and play because a career goes by in the blink of an eye, Alex. A career goes
Yeah,
by in the blink of an eye. And
yeah,
when you are talking about football, I get, especially with retired players, I get an awful lot of players wanting to elaborate on what they did. And they're so grateful to tell their story. Like my latest interview is with Willie Boland, who played for Coventry and also for Cardiff. And we were speaking about representing Ireland at youth international level. And who did he come up against? Clarence Seedorf. And he said that at youth international level, playing against Clarence Seedorf, you could tell even then what a good player he was going to be. So this is what I mean about the stories that people have to tell. That's the latest interview that was published today. Upcoming interviews will include former Scotland team manager Craig Brown, to be released on Tuesday. And then Ian Birchnell, who managed Ostersund's, Kaya Simon of PSV Ladies, and a couple of surprises as well. And looking forward to them all.
okay. Last few people. Got Pelpa, who says, William proved to be a waste. I'd rather Pepe on his worst day. Okay, well, we respect your opinion.
Mm.
And you're going to say that we can come in top four. I don't think so. Look at how other teams keep depleting because of injuries. Again, I don't think we'll get top four. I think highest, my personal opinion, top six. I've got, what do I have here? I've got Gary DWTT says hello, Alex, Monty, and James. Coming, you Gunners. And we need to play three in the middle to accommodate the players like Smith Rowe. Good shout. Reece
Mm.
Nelson. And yeah, that's a good shout, actually. I do like that one.
Mm.
I believe we've come to an end. I know there's just a
Mm.
few more that's coming to the live chat. We've been going for more than an hour. I do like to try and
Mm.
keep it less than an hour. James knows that. I don't like to just talk for the sake of talking, but it's been a really good
Yep.
podcast here. James, thank you very much. We will leave the link for James Rowe's Twitter handle, which is at James Rowe NL,
NL.
I believe,
That's
James. Yeah,
correct. And they can
there you
keep up
go.
to date with my latest interviews on my Twitter handle as well as Football CFB. And lots of interesting interviews coming up with players, managers, agents as well. And to learn about different sides of the game as well. Everyone's got a story to tell, and looking forward to how they're received.
Yeah. You know what? Just before we do go, there's just a couple of questions which are aimed at you, James, actually.
Oh,
So here's one here. Actually, no, it's this one here. From Adesina Taiwo, who says, good evening, Alex and James. Are we saying that Arsenal cannot fix the problems we are in at the moment?
yes, I think that's what we're saying, and I think he raises a good point as well. We can't fix them because obviously, we like we've got a very young fan base. I mean, I've been supporting the club for more than 30 years, and in my formative years, especially with the elder Gooners, anytime I know social media and society has changed and times have changed, but I remember in my formative years, anytime an elder Gooner opened their mouth, you listened to what they had to say. And I think Arsenal as a club, they're pandering to a certain fan base that, in my opinion, not all of them, but some of them are quite naive. And we have to show that strong sense of character again. We used to have such tremendous standards, and they're slowly slipping away, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. As we've spoken many times about, social media. Social media has a big part to play. I think Arsenal
Mm,
has probably one of the biggest, social media network across
Mm,
all the football teams in the
mm,
UK. And I always say to the subscribers, do your homework, on the
mm.
internet, research the history of Arsenal.
Yeah.
Don't only listen to Canon 42. Go and research the history. We have a rich history at
Mm.
Arsenal, but I just do wonder that we're just so reliant now on a history. We haven't won the league in 16 years,
16 years.
and and counting and
Yeah.
counting. Last question for you, James, and that's coming from
And
again from Magic A. James, what is the first step Arsenal need to take now for us to go on the right direction and for us to improve things at the club? Oof. How long have you got, James?
um, Majid, I think for the greater good, our owner has to sell. I don't know if putting pressure on the owner to sell would work because I don't think he's interested, and I don't think he's interested in what Arsenal fans have got to say. So I think we've just got to wait for it to come to a natural end, and then when we get an owner in, for me, it's not about the amount of money the owner's got, whether it's a sheikh, whether it's Dangote. All I want is for an owner to have the best interest of Arsenal at heart. If they come in and say, right, we're going to change course, we're going to promote the youth team, we're going to give give feasible targets. The feasible targets is to get a sustainable first team squad where young players come in and there's a pathway. Selling players at the right time because we're keeping players far too long because we can't give them away, and just a wind of change really, and it's going to take time. It's going to take
Yeah.
time. It really is. And older Arsenal fans will remember we didn't win the league between 53 and 71. We didn't win the league between 71 and 89. It's going to
Mm.
be a little bit longer than 18 years this time around, but we've just got to keep the faith that eventually Kroenke won't be around forever. I mean, as I say, I interview professional players and managers. I have spoken to someone at the club he owns in the US, but I have no links to him himself. Who knows? I don't think he'll listen to me, but maybe I'll drop it in an interview one day.
All right, so we're going to end it right there. The real sad thing for me is, James, we're hearing the passing of Ray Clements,
Yeah.
who was signed, from Scunthorpe by Bill
Mm.
Shankly. Arsenal, I can't see Arsenal getting back to that, looking at players in the lower leagues and making stars of these players. I can't see Arsenal doing that anytime soon. I think gone are the days where we look for the next best thing in Europe, spend millions of pounds of, maybe a midfielder or a striker. Gone are the days where we look at the lower leagues and try and find the diamond in the rough. Really,
But
really
by the
sad.
same, I fully agree. But by the same token, the amount of money involved, it can't go on forever. And to
Yeah,
give you a
yeah.
sneak preview of my interview with Craig Brown, in the words of Craig Brown, the money has distorted the game,
Mm,
especially in England. Especially in England. So, that's just a little snippet of my upcoming interview with him on Tuesday. And if we had good, strong characters that went looking down to the lower leagues and kind of went to lower league grounds, they'd soon attract attention. If Mikel Arteta rocked up at clubs such as Barnsley or clubs such as Huddersfield, they'd soon gain attention. But some things never go out of fashion, and
yeah, yeah.
we're gonna need big hearts. But going back to what Arsene Wenger said, and I'm not a Wenger disciple, but it just sums up everything which is wrong with the game at the moment, where
Mm,
people
mm,
are not concerned about if it's the right decision; they're only concerned if it's popular. And those kind of decisions are literally the popular decision is eating away at Arsenal Football Club bit by bit by bit.
mm. Yeah. Well, listen, on that note, the podcast has come to an end. I will definitely leave James Rose a link, Twitter handle in the description box at the end of this podcast. James, as always, James, it's a real pleasure to have you back on Canon for TV. Really, really good. Again, I don't. Again, I've run out of superlatives, James.
Thank you for the kind words. As I say, being an Arsenal fan for over 30 years, I just try to tell the truth and keep my integrity, and also with my perspective of dealing with professional players and managers. You know, I've spoken to Bob Wilson, I've spoken to Viv Anderson, spoken to Kevin Campbell, spoken to Charlie Gilmore. All these players have a distinction and a link to Arsenal Football Club. You know, and it's nice to bring the human element in the interviews, especially when speaking about Arsenal players, and letting the people that watch the podcast know that, you know, there's more to it than just simply the things that people think it is.
Yeah, yeah. Those of you in the live chat, again, I do apologize. I didn't get to read all of the live comments. You know, I do appreciate the numbers were fluctuating with just under 40 live at any one time. But thank you for spending your evening or afternoon or whatever it is, wherever you are in this fantastic world. It's come to an end. If by chance you've been thinking whether to subscribe or not, subscribe to Canon 40 TV. We're making our way to 10,000 subscribers. I've always said to James, really, it's not about the numbers. The words mean a lot more than making a purchase, you know, in the merchandise or the super chat. I've seen some really kind words over the last month or two to the wonderful subscribers there. But if by chance you are a new subscriber and you've been wondering and thinking, who's this? What is this? Or you've been listening to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over